Factsverse presents The Andy Griffith Show, 11 Things You Didn't Know About the Classic Series. Before we get started, make sure you subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss a single video. The Andy Griffith Show. The Andy Griffith Show is one of the greatest shows in history. Danny Thomas and Sheldon Leonard created it. It starred Andy Griffith as Sheriff Andy Taylor. Ron Howard played Opie, and Don Knotts played Barney Fife. If you're a fan of the show, you may think you know everything about it. There are some secrets you don't know. The Andy Griffith Show, 11 Things You Didn't Know About the Classic Series. Andy Griffith and Aunt Bee didn't get along at all. Frances Bavier was the actress who played Aunt Bee. Frances was a classically trained actress, and she was very prim and proper. Because of this, she wasn't a fan of Andy or Don. She didn't like their off-screen antics. The two loved practical jokes, and Frances didn't. She didn't even like her character on the show. The feud between Frances and Andy lasted until she was on her deathbed. Before she died, she reached out to Andy to apologize for always being so uptight. Andy was thrilled to have been able to repair his relationship with Frances before she passed. He says that he always had great respect for her as an actress and as a person, so he was happy that the rift was repaired. Don Knotts left the show because of poor communication. When the show started, Andy told Don he wanted to do the show for just 5 years. Don agreed, and the two men signed a 5-year contract. At the end of 5 years, Don was looking for work, and he signed a 3-year deal with Universal. By this point, Andy wanted to keep doing the show. Don was offered an extension on his contract, but he had just signed with Universal, so he had to leave the show. This is why Barney Fife wasn't in the last few seasons of the show. Betty Lynn, who played Barney's girlfriend, Thelma Lou, left the show as well. The show suffered after Don Knotts left, but it still went on for 3 more seasons before getting canceled. Fortunately, fans could enjoy the show in a sense when Mayberry RFD premiered right after the show ended. You'll hear more about this in a few minutes. Opie never had a mother. Opie didn't have a mother on the show, and it was a very weak backstory. All the audience knew was that Opie's mother died when he was just a baby. Her name was never mentioned, nor how she died. Despite this gap in the storyline, Opie was a complete character. Many fans discussed their disappointment about not hearing more about Opie's late mother. Not discussing a dead parent on sitcoms in the 50s, 60s, and even in the 70s wasn't uncommon. Remember the Brady Bunch? The girl's father and the boy's mother were never talked about on the show. This was commonplace, even though it made the backstory a bit weak. Andy thought he would be the funny one on the show until he met Don. Before the Andy Griffith Show, Andy was a successful stand-up comedian. When he was offered the show, he assumed he would be the funny one because it was his show. As soon as Andy met Don, he realized that Don should be the funny guy. Andy was right, and Barney Fife became a fan favorite. Andy realized right away that the show would be more successful if he were the serious side to Don's comic relief. Fortunately, he was right. Andy stepping back as the comic on the show worked out great, and the show is a success. It's still seen in reruns today. The Andy Griffith Show shared a minor character with Gomer Pyle, U.S.M.C. There was a character on the show named Mr. Schwamp. All he did was sit on a bench in the episodes he starred in. There were times when Barney or Sheriff Taylor would say hi to him, but that was about it. The man behind Mr. Schwamp was actually the show's production manager. He never spoke a line on the show. There was also a character on the show named Goober Pyle. He was the cousin of Gomer Pyle, played by Jim Nabors. Gomer was the main character on Gomer Pyle, which was on TV at the same time as The Andy Griffith Show. Sheriff Andy Taylor was a great dad. Anyone who's ever seen The Andy Griffith Show knows that Sheriff Taylor was a great father. He always took time out for Opie, and he did his best always to teach him life lessons. When TV Guide's June 20th, 2004 issue came out, they had a list of the 50 greatest TV dads of all time. Andy Taylor landed at number 8. Opie didn't have a mother, but Andy made up for that. Andy also had great girlfriends like Helen Crump and Ellie Walker, who were great stand-ins for Opie's mother. Being ranked at number 8 was a huge honor. The Andy Griffith Show used the same set as an iconic movie. If you're a fan of The Andy Griffith Show, you can pick the set out immediately. If you love the film Gone with the Wind and The Andy Griffith Show, you may have noticed some similarities. This is because the two shared the same sets. It almost makes you wonder if every TV studio has just one small-town set, and they use them for various shows. The next time you watch The Andy Griffith Show, you'll see that the two sets are the same. One of the most popular characters didn't fit with the show's conservative themes. One thing that people loved about The Andy Griffith Show was the fact that it was wholesome. Families could all sit together and watch the show, and parents didn't need to worry about their children seeing anything questionable. The audience also loved the residents of Mayberry, which was the fictional town that Andy Taylor lived in. There was one popular character in the town named Otis Campbell. He was a fan favorite, despite the fact that his character wasn't very wholesome. Otis was played by Hal Smith, and he was the town drunk. It wasn't uncommon to see him locked up from time to time so that Andy and Barney could let him sober up. Otis was not the most wholesome character, but the audience loved him just the same.
I'd say that.
When the Andy Griffith Show ended, it didn't really end. The Andy Griffith Show ended in 1968. When fans found out the show was coming to an end, they were pretty upset. Fortunately, they were still able to get their fill of Andy Griffith, sort of. Right after the show ended, the spin-off, Mayberry RFD, premiered. Although Andy Taylor was no longer the main character on the show, Andy Griffith did star in 5 episodes. Other Mayberry favorites were on the show, including Aunt Bee, Howard Sprague, and Goober Pyle. The show was never as popular as the original, and it ran for just 3 seasons. Fans loved the fact that even though Andy Taylor was gone, they could still tune in to see their favorite Mayberry residents. Aunt Bee didn't like the foul language. When the cameras were rolling, the Andy Griffith Show was a very wholesome show. As mentioned earlier, the least wholesome thing about the show was Otis Campbell, the town drunk. When the cameras weren't rolling, the cast wasn't quite so wholesome. Behind the scenes, the cast liked to talk a lot. Since they were all comedians, they loved to joke around, play practical jokes, and use foul language. While this was common with most of the actors, Frances Bavier was different. She was very proper and didn't like the jokes or the foul language. One day on the set, George Lindsay, who played Goober Pyle, was using naughty language in the presence of Frances. She didn't like it at all, and she hit him over the head with an umbrella. George didn't say too much about it. He had great respect for Frances, so he took the whole thing in stride. He says that even though he got clobbered over the head, his respect for Frances remained. The Andy Griffith Show was an award-winning show. The Andy Griffith Show was great, and so were the actors and actresses. Don Knotts, a.k.a. Barney Fife, won an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor in a Comedy Series. Frances Bavier, a.k.a. Aunt Bee. Unfortunately, Andy Griffith was never nominated for an award, which is pretty shocking considering what a great actor he was. Andy was nominated for 2 Tony Awards for 2 different roles. The show was nominated for Best Comedy Series, but it didn't win. Which of these facts is most surprising to you? Let us know in the comments. And be sure to subscribe to Factsverse for more great videos.
Now, what I offer you, my friends, is no medicine. It is far more than that. It is a tonic.